Seek, my child, and ye shall find. So there is a lot more meaning in the Garden of Eden story than we were ever told about. The book of Genesis is not the oldest in the Bible. The Garden of Eden story is not the oldest story from the Bible, yet somehow it winds up at the beginning. And then you realize why when you start to research the goddess Asherah and all of her symbols that show up in the Garden of Eden. There is a lot of scholarly discussion surrounding the Garden of Eden being the divorce of Yahweh and his Asherah. Some of her most prominent symbols, like the tree of life and snakes, show up in this story. But not only that, the garden itself, the sanctuary, is likely a place where Asherah would be worshipped. Her name means sanctuary or grove. You would worship her amongst the trees. The tree gives life, much like Asherah does. She is called the progenitrix, the creatrix of the gods. In Hebrew, Eve's name literally translates to giver of life. Some people see Eve as an attestation of Asherah demythologized and then the blame placed on her for everything that's wrong in the world. So back to the goddess's symbols. Let's talk about the snake. Why were snakes important? Well, in the ancient world, snakes represented healing, fecundity, regeneration, all things that were represented in Asherah. By the way, there is nowhere in the Bible that supports an idea of Satan being the snake. The snake is just a snake. The snake is meant to be separated from Asherah, so that way it takes her power. Not only are trees and snakes connected to the divine feminine, but they also are a conduit, much like Asherah was called a mediator, a conduit between people and the gods. So what do we have? A garden that would normally be associated with Asherah, now being controlled by Yahweh. And when Eve chose knowledge over blind worship, they were kicked out of that sanctuary. They were separated from the divine feminine, from Asherah. Not only that, her symbols were trampled on, and the ones that did remain are now attributed to Yahweh, a male god that bears fruit. Okay. Remember, the snake is a hero at one point, and then the reformers come along and they trample and destroy the image because it is connected to Asherah. So normally women would ask Asherah for the blessing of having a child. And now here's Eve, has to have pain from her labor and needs help from Yahweh to even become pregnant. People who were reading that story at that time, in that context, knew exactly what was happening. All the blame has been placed on us. We have been separated from the divine feminine, and history has been forever changed from the misunderstanding, misrepresentation that comes from the Garden of Eden.